For 18 years, Olivia believed she was living the perfect marriage with Ryan, a devoted, loving, and always present husband. But everything changed on an ordinary afternoon when she stumbled upon a hidden letter revealing a devastating secret. Her husband had a child with another woman, born during a trip to Africa. Now, the truth threatens to destroy everything she believed to be real. How far is Olivia willing to go to confront the past? And can a marriage survive such a profound betrayal? Olivia stared at the calendar pinned to the refrigerator as she sipped the last drop of her coffee. Just another ordinary day in her routine as a dedicated wife and mother, living with Ryan in a spacious home in the suburbs of Atlanta, Georgia. Their life seemed perfect, at least to outsiders, married for 25 years, with 2 grown children and enviable financial stability. Yet, for Olivia, the past few months had been filled with doubts she couldn't quite put into words. Ryan had been traveling frequently for work in recent years, creating an emotional distance that was hard to ignore. Although he was always attentive and affectionate upon his return, Olivia felt there was something hidden behind her husband's calm facade. That particular morning, Ryan was getting ready for yet another business trip. As he adjusted his tie in front of the mirror, he noticed Olivia watching him from the doorway. "Is everything okay?" he asked, offering a faint smile. "Yes, I was just thinking about how quickly time flies," she replied, forcing a smile in return. In recent days, Olivia had been recalling a story Ryan often shared with pride, a trip to Africa he took 18 years ago as part of a volunteer program with local doctors. He always described that time as life-changing, but Olivia realized she knew little about the details. "Africa changed my life," Ryan used to say. But now, that phrase echoed in her mind like a riddle. Olivia had never thought to question him about his past. After all, what could be unusual about a devoted husband who, for a few months, chose to help underprivileged communities? However, something felt different that morning. Ryan seemed to avoid her gaze, packing his suitcase hurriedly and repeatedly checking his phone, as if waiting for an important message. Later that day, while Ryan was away at meetings, Olivia busied herself organizing the house. In the process, she came across an old envelope tucked at the back of Ryan's desk drawer. The yellowed paper and unfamiliar handwriting caught her attention. Curious, she opened it and found a faded photograph of a younger Ryan standing next to a woman Olivia didn't recognize. The woman was tall, dark-skinned, with intense eyes that seemed to stare directly into the camera with determination. On the back of the photo was a handwritten note, "With love, Jamila. September 2005. Olivia's heart raced. She searched the envelope for more clues and found a partially torn letter. Phrases like "our son" and "I want him to meet you" immediately stood out. Her trembling hands dropped the letter. That night, when Ryan returned home, Olivia was unusually quiet. He noticed, but chose not to press the issue. "How was your day?" he asked, attempting to sound casual. "Quiet. I did some cleaning in the office," she replied, her tone calculated, almost as if testing him. Ryan froze for a moment but quickly recovered, changing the subject. To Olivia, that brief hesitation was enough to confirm he was hiding something. As Ryan slept soundly that night, Olivia picked up the letter again, rereading the fragments. The presence of Jamila seemed to emerge like a shadow from a past Ryan had never mentioned. Who was she? And why did those words hint at something so intimate? The next morning, Olivia decided to confront Ryan subtly. Over breakfast, she brought it up. "Do you remember your trip to Africa? I've always wondered about the people you met there. Anyone you still keep in touch with?" Ryan hesitated, spreading butter on his toast with slow, deliberate movements. "Oh, it was such a long time ago. I made a few friends, but life moves on, you know," he replied, avoiding her gaze. His words sounded light, but Olivia knew better. He was hiding something. The next day, Olivia began investigating discreetly. Her mind couldn't shake the image of Jamila and the reference to "our son." Questions piled up, but she knew confronting Ryan without concrete proof would be risky. With her husband away on another trip, she had the time and freedom she needed to search for answers. Olivia had always been a practical woman. At 49, she prided herself on her ability to balance family life with her personal projects. In addition to running a small local craft shop, She maintained a close circle of friends who admired her intelligence and sensitivity. However, when it came to Ryan, her instinct to trust had always prevailed. Now, that trust felt like a sandcastle, crumbling under relentless waves. That afternoon, while reorganizing papers in the home office, Olivia found another intriguing clue, an old postcard sent from Africa. It contained a short message signed only with a J. The note read, "Ryan, I hope you're well. Things here are not easy, but we carry on. When will you keep your promise? With love, J." Promise? Olivia tried not to let panic take over. Grabbing her laptop, she began researching the city mentioned on the postcard, Kisumu, Kenya. She learned that Kisumu was a vibrant city on the shores of Lake Victoria, known for its bustling market and local communities reliant on tourism and volunteer programs. Ryan had described the trip as a healthcare project, but he had never gone into details about what exactly he had done there. Ryan was a private man, a respected surgeon in their community. His dedication to work had always been a priority, but he also made an effort to create moments with family. Yet now, Olivia wondered if this image was just a carefully crafted facade. The frequent work trips, sudden mood shifts, and the way he dodged certain conversations started to take on new meaning. She realized Ryan had never mentioned colleagues or close friends from that time. Based on the photo and the letter, Olivia began to imagine who Jamila might be. There was no last name, but she knew this woman had a deep connection to Ryan. Olivia didn't know how to feel. Jealousy? Anger? Or was it an even deeper sadness? To Olivia, Jamila wasn't just a stranger, she was someone who had already disrupted her life. Determined to dig deeper, Olivia decided to seek advice from someone she trusted, her best friend, Megan. The two had met in college and had shared everything ever since. Megan, an attorney, had an uncanny ability to detect lies. "Olivia, this is no small thing. If he is a child you don't know about, it changes everything," Megan said bluntly as she examined the photo and the postcard. Maybe it's time to talk to him directly. But Olivia wasn't ready to confront Ryan. Not yet. She needed more information before asking questions that could change the course of her life. While Megan researched more about Kisumu, Olivia remembered a box Ryan kept in the attic, filled with items from his international trips. Going through it, she found a notebook with notes. Among scribbled medical procedures, there were references to Jamila and the village where he had worked. The words promise and family appeared repeatedly. Another piece of the puzzle fell into place. Ryan hadn't just passed through Kisumu, he had formed bonds, something deeper than Olivia was ready to accept. A few days later, Ryan returned from his trip. That evening, while he showered, Olivia took the opportunity to check his phone. Normally, she would never have done such a thing, but the situation had pushed her beyond her limits of patience. She found a recent message that read, "I'm glad to hear you're doing well. I'm still waiting for the day you keep your promise. Our son is 18 now, and he deserves to know you. Jamila." Olivia nearly dropped the phone. The words seemed to echo in her mind, confirming her worst fears. Olivia's life began unraveling in a spiral of uncertainty. As she uncovered more about Ryan's past and his connection to Jamila, the mystery of the child and Ryan's promise deepened. Her determination to uncover the truth only grew stronger, but the emotional toll of these discoveries left her increasingly vulnerable. The next morning, Olivia couldn't hide her tension. Every movement Ryan made, every casual word, seemed loaded with hidden meanings. Despite her effort to maintain a facade, he noticed something was off. "You seem distant, Liv. Is everything okay?" he asked as they had breakfast together. She stared at him for a moment, fighting the urge to confront him. Instead, she deflected. "I'm just thinking about some things with the shop. Don't worry." But internally, Olivia was bracing herself. She knew the truth needed to come out, but it had to happen at the right moment. Later that day, Olivia decided to email Jamila. Using the email address she found in one of Ryan's notebook drafts, she wrote a brief, direct message. "Hello, Jamila. My name is Olivia, and I am Ryan's wife. I recently came across some messages from you and would like to understand more about what happened in the past. Please reach out to me." Her hands trembled as she sent the email. She knew she was opening a door that could never be closed again. That evening, Olivia received a reply. The email was brief but devastating. Olivia, I'm sorry if this message causes you pain. That was never my intention. Ryan and I met during his stay in Kenya. We had a relationship, and from that, my son, Ao, was born. He's now 18 years old. I've always respected Ryan's choice to maintain his life in the United States, but I believe it's time for him to face this truth. If you'd like to talk, I'm available. Olivia read the words over and over. The world seemed to spin around her. A relationship? A child? Ryan had built another life while promising eternal love to her. When Ryan came home that night, Olivia was waiting for him in the living room, Jamila's letter and the email printed out on the table. He stopped in the hallway as soon as he saw her, immediately sensing something was wrong. Olivia, what's going on? He asked, but his expression already revealed his fear. This, she said, pointing to the papers, is what's going on. Who is Jamila? Who is Ao? Ryan turned pale. For a few seconds, he said nothing. Then, he took a deep breath and sat on the couch, burying his face in his hands. I should have told you. From the beginning. Yes, you should have. Now I want the truth. All of it, Ryan. Ryan explained that during his trip to Kenya, he had gotten involved with Jamila. At the time, he and Olivia had been going through a rough patch in their marriage, marked by exhausting routines and emotional distance. Jamila was a local nurse working alongside him in the healthcare program. It was a moment of weakness. I wasn't planning any of this. Jamila was. She was different, warm, dedicated to her work. But it was brief, Olivia. And I didn't know how to handle the consequences. The consequences being a child, Ryan. Olivia shot back, her voice shaking with emotion. He admitted that he learned about Ao's existence shortly after returning to the United States, but couldn't bring himself to tell Olivia. He had sent some money over the years, but had avoided any direct involvement. Do you realize what this means? Olivia asked, still in shock. You lied to me for 18 years. Ryan's confession shattered Olivia. She alternated between anger and sadness, questioning whether she truly knew the man she had spent half her life with. In the days that followed, she began to distance herself emotionally from Ryan. Despite his attempts to explain and promise that things would be different, Olivia couldn't bring herself to trust him. The thought that Ryan had a grown son, a part of him she had never known, was overwhelming. At the same time, Olivia found herself growing increasingly curious about Ao. Who was he? What was his life like in Kenya? Jamila had mentioned that he was eager to meet his father. But what about her? Could she face this young man and the story he represented? While Olivia was still processing everything, Ryan made a surprising proposal. I want to go to Kenya, Olivia. I want to meet Ao. He deserves this, and I need to make this right, even if it's too late. Olivia remained silent. The idea of Ryan reconnecting with Jamila and meeting his son was hard to accept. But she also knew that ignoring the situation would only prolong the pain. If you go, Ryan, I'm coming with you, she said firmly. I need answers too. Ryan was surprised, but agreed. It would be a trip filled with conflicting emotions, but they both knew it was necessary. The trip to Kenya was set for 2 weeks away. Olivia and Ryan barely exchanged words, but both knew this was a journey they couldn't avoid. As the tension grew, new dynamics began to surface, further widening the emotional cracks between them. Before the trip, Olivia met Megan at a cafe. Her friend was the only person she trusted to share what was happening. Are you sure you want to do this? Megan asked, stirring her cappuccino. I'm not sure of anything, Meg. But I can't keep living with so many questions. I need to understand who this boy is, and who Ryan really is. Megan nodded but didn't hide her skepticism. Just remember, Liv, finding the truth doesn't always bring peace. Sometimes answers only lead to more questions. While Olivia sought support, Ryan worked to organize his thoughts. He spent days revisiting old photos and rereading letters from Jamila that he had kept hidden. He knew his decision to go to Kenya could change everything, but he also felt it was the only way to fix the damage caused by his lies. One night, he called Jamila. The conversation was brief and formal, but it was clear she was hesitant about the visit. I don't want this to hurt Olivia more than it already has, Jamila said. I know. But she insisted on coming. We both need to face this together. As Ryan wrestled with his guilt, Jamila prepared Ao for his father's arrival. The young man, who had grown up hearing vague stories about Ryan, was both anxious and nervous. Does he really want to meet me? Ao asked. He says he does, son. But don't expect too much right away. He's a man carrying the weight of his own choices, Jamila replied gently. Jamila knew the meeting wouldn't be easy. Despite the cultural differences and years of separation, she had never spoken ill of Ryan to Ao. She wanted her son to form his own opinion. When the plane landed in Kisumu, Olivia felt a mix of apprehension and fascination. The humid heat, the aroma of spices in the air, and the vibrant voices of the airport were completely different from anything she had ever experienced. On the way to the hotel, she watched the scenery, trying to imagine what Ryan's life had been like here. It was hard to reconcile the meticulous, reserved man she knew with someone who could have formed such deep connections in a faraway place. Ryan seemed equally uncomfortable. He attempted to make casual conversation, but Olivia responded with monosyllables, still processing everything that was happening. The next afternoon, Ryan and Olivia arrived at Jamila's house. It was a modest but welcoming home, decorated with photographs and colorful fabrics. Ao sat on the porch, his hands fidgeting nervously. When Ryan stepped out of the car, the young man stood up, hesitant. Their eyes met, and for a moment, time seemed to freeze. Ao, this is your father, Jamila said softly. Ryan took a few steps forward, visibly emotional. It's a pleasure to meet you, Ao. You're more than I could have imagined. Ao smiled shyly, but Olivia noticed the tension in the air. Sitting next to Jamila, she watched the interaction with a lump in her throat. You must be Olivia, Jamila said, extending her hand. Thank you for coming. I'm not sure thank you is appropriate, but I'm here to understand, Olivia replied, her words cuttingly sincere. Over the next few days, Olivia began learning more about Jamila and Ao. The bond between mother and son was strong, built through years of challenges and sacrifices. Ao was a bright young man, with plans to study engineering and a deep love for his culture. At the same time, Olivia began to realize that Jamila wasn't the rival she had imagined. She was a strong woman who had chosen to raise Ao alone, asking for nothing more than Ryan was willing to offer. I never wanted to destroy your marriage, Olivia. It was already yours when I met him, Jamila said during a private conversation. Despite the sincerity, those words didn't lessen Olivia's pain. She wondered if she could ever forgive Ryan, not just for the betrayal, but for hiding a part of his life for so long. Ryan and Ao spent time together, exploring the local market and visiting the village where Ryan had worked. Slowly, Ryan began to earn his son's trust. I wanted to be there for you, Ao. I just didn't know how to handle it all, Ryan admitted, his voice heavy with regret. There's still time, Dad. I just hope you don't disappear again, Ao replied. Those words struck Ryan deeply. He knew he couldn't change the past, but he promised to do everything in his power to be present in the future. On Olivia and Ryan's last night in Kenya, they attended a dinner at Jamila's home. It was meant to be a symbolic moment, an opportunity to conclude the visit on a cordial note. However, what began as a tense gathering soon evolved into an event that would drastically change the course of their lives. The table was filled with local dishes, prepared by Jamila. Ao seemed more at ease, and even Ryan made an effort to engage in the conversation. Olivia, however, remained observant, her mind wrestling with the reality that this 18-year-old boy was a part of the man she loved and thought she had completely known. As laughter filled the air, Jamila looked at Olivia with a shy smile. Olivia, could we speak in private? The two stepped into the small garden behind the house. The silence between them was broken only by the sound of crickets and the soft rustle of the wind in the leaves. I want to thank you again for coming, Jamila began. I know this hasn't been easy for you. It hasn't, Olivia replied, crossing her arms as the weight of the past few days bore down on her. But I'm trying to understand. Jamila hesitated, as though carefully choosing her words. There's something you need to know, something Ryan never told you. Olivia felt a chill run down her spine. What is it? Jamila took a deep breath before continuing. Ryan didn't know about Ao right away. It took me years to tell him. But when I did, he promised to visit us. He never came. What you might not know is that Ryan didn't just ignore us, he made it clear he didn't want Ao to interfere with the life he had with you. Those words hit Olivia like a punch to the gut. Her mind spun with questions and conflicting emotions. He knew, and he chose to hide it from me? Why didn't you push harder? I tried, Jamila said quietly. But I didn't want to destroy your family. As much as he had responsibilities here, I knew you and your children were his priority. I thought he might change his mind one day. The ground beneath Olivia seemed to shift. It wasn't just the physical betrayal, it was Ryan's conscious decision to lie to her for nearly 2 decades. When Olivia and Jamila returned to the living room, the atmosphere felt heavier. Olivia barely looked at Ryan before saying coldly, "Can we talk outside?" Ryan followed her into the garden, where Olivia's bottled-up anger finally erupted. "How long did you think you could keep this from me, Ryan? This isn't just betrayal, it's an entire life of lies." Ryan looked confused. "What are you talking about?" "Jamila told me about your decision to ignore Ao. You knew he existed, and you chose to erase him like he was a mistake. I was afraid, Olivia. Afraid of losing you, afraid of destroying our family. And now? What's changed?" Olivia asked, tears streaming down her face. "You only came here because I found out the truth. It wasn't guilt, it wasn't love for Ao, it was because you were forced." Ryan tried to explain, but every word only made things worse. Olivia finally blurted out, "I don't know if I can ever look at you the same way again." Unbeknownst to them, Ao had stepped outside to retrieve something from the car and overheard the end of their argument. He stood frozen, the weight of Olivia's words sinking in. When Ryan noticed his son, his face filled with guilt. "Ao, So it's true?" Ao asked, his voice low but brimming with emotion. "You knew about me and chose to forget?" Ryan tried to approach, but Ao stepped back. "Don't tell me you want to fix this now. For 18 years, you decided I didn't matter." Without waiting for a response, Ao turned and walked back into the house, leaving Ryan and Olivia alone. Back at the hotel, Olivia barely slept. Jamila's words and the confrontation with Ryan echoed in her mind. For the first time, she questioned if there was anything left to salvage in their marriage. Ryan, on the other hand, was consumed by guilt. He knew he had made the wrong choices, but now he was facing the full consequences of his actions. That night, both Olivia and Ryan realized they could no longer continue living as they had before. The tension between Ryan, Olivia, and Ao had reached a breaking point. The revelation that Ryan had chosen to ignore his son left deep scars on everyone involved. In the days that followed, each of them reacted differently, trying to cope with their new reality. Back at the hotel, Olivia finally broke down. The tears she had held back for days came rushing out in a torrent of emotion. For the first time, she allowed herself to seriously consider leaving Ryan. The man she had built an entire life with now felt like a stranger. The next morning, while Ryan was still asleep, Olivia went for a walk through the city alone. The bustling local market was alive with activity, but she felt disconnected from the energy around her. She sat down at a small cafe and opened the journal she always carried, jotting down the questions that wouldn't leave her mind. Do I still love Ryan? Can love overcome such betrayal? Can I accept Ao as part of our lives? Do I even want to fight for this marriage? She realized she didn't have answers to any of them. Meanwhile, Ryan was determined to make up for lost time with Ao. He insisted on meeting with his son again, even though he knew it would be challenging. Jamila reluctantly agreed, but she made it clear this was Ryan's last chance. Ao accepted the meeting but didn't hide his emotions. "You can't just show up and expect me to accept you as my father. I've lived 18 years without you." "Why now?" Ryan responded honestly. "Because I made a huge mistake. And I want to make it right, if you'll let me." Ao listened, but his expression remained serious. "We'll see." Jamila found herself playing the role of mediator between Ryan and Ao. While she wanted her son to have a relationship with his father, she knew the process would be long and filled with pain. In a private conversation, she told Ryan, "You're lucky he's willing to listen to you. Don't waste this chance. But, Ryan, don't think you can walk in and out of his life like before. If you're going to stay, stay. Ryan nodded, taking her words to heart. One morning, while Olivia wandered through the market, she ran into Ao by chance. He was buying fruit at a stall. For a moment, she hesitated to approach him, but then decided to go over. Ao, she called, offering a hesitant smile. He recognized her immediately and smiled back. Hi, Olivia. Are you enjoying the city? It's different from anything I know, but I think I'm learning to appreciate it. They started talking, and Olivia discovered that Ao was a bright, charismatic young man. He spoke about his plans to study engineering and his dream of building bridges, both literally and metaphorically. You've got a good head on your shoulders. Your mom must be very proud, Olivia said. She's amazing. But I also want my dad to be proud of me, even though I'm still not sure how I feel about him. Olivia paused for a moment before replying. I think that's something you two will need to figure out together. After her conversation with Ao, Olivia began to see things from a new perspective. Despite the pain and betrayal, she realized she couldn't make any rash decisions. But she also knew things would never be the same again. That evening, she confronted Ryan once more. Ryan, you're starting to reconnect with Ao, and that's good. But what about us? What are you going to do to save our marriage? Ryan looked at her with sincerity. I don't know if I can fix everything, Olivia. But I want to try, if you'll let me. Then let's start by being honest, Ryan. And that means we can't pretend everything is normal. When we go back home, we'll need space and help. Ryan agreed, even though he knew it might mean losing Olivia. Olivia and Ryan's return to the United States was marked by silence and introspection. They barely spoke during the flight, both knowing their lives would never be the same. The trip to Kenya had exposed deep wounds, and now they had to decide how to move forward. Back in her routine, Olivia decided to focus on herself for the first time in years. She began prioritizing her own needs and desires. She spent more time at her craft store, enrolled in an interior design course she had always wanted to take, and started attending therapy sessions. In therapy, Olivia opened up about the pain of betrayal and the challenge of imagining a future with Ryan. Sometimes I feel like I've spent my whole life living for my marriage and family, but now I need to figure out who I am without those ties, she confided. Over the weeks, she began to rediscover her strength. The decision to move forward with or without Ryan would come in her own time, without pressure. Ryan, meanwhile, focused on building his relationship with Ao. He called his son weekly, sent emails, and even arranged for Ao to visit the United States. When Ao arrived, Ryan greeted him enthusiastically but quickly realized their connection was still fragile. They spent the weekend together visiting museums and attending basketball games, slowly beginning to build a friendship. You know, I didn't expect any of this, Ao admitted at one point. But I can see that you're trying, and that means something. Those words were a relief to Ryan, who knew the journey would be long but was willing to keep trying. During Ao's visit, Olivia also spent time with him. She was struck by his maturity and empathy. Your presence here means a lot, Ao. Not just to Ryan, but to me as well, she told him. You're different from what I imagined. Kinder, he replied with a smile. The two had long conversations about Ao's future, and Olivia even offered financial support for his education. He initially refused, but Olivia insisted. This isn't just for you. It's for me, too. Helping you gives me a sense of purpose. Ao accepted with gratitude, creating a bond that helped heal some of Olivia's pain. After months of reflection, Olivia finally made a decision about her marriage. She sat down with Ryan at the kitchen table and spoke calmly. Ryan, I've forgiven you for what happened, but that doesn't mean things can go back to the way they were. We need time and space to rediscover ourselves. Ryan seemed prepared for this conversation, but he couldn't hide his sadness. And what does that mean for us? He asked. It means I want a temporary separation. Not because I want to end everything, but because I need to know if we're better together or apart. Ryan nodded, accepting her decision with reluctance. He understood he had lost the right to dictate the course of their relationship. As Olivia and Ryan worked on their individual issues, Jamila and Ao also moved forward. Ao returned to Kenya with a sense of closure and the hope of maintaining regular contact with his father. Jamila, for her part, felt relief knowing her son had finally found a part of his identity. She sent Olivia a final message. "Thank you for coming. I know it was hard, but I believe it was necessary for all of us. I wish you strength and happiness, whatever path you choose." Over time, Olivia and Ryan began seeing each other less frequently, but with more mutual respect. Olivia realized that, despite everything, there was still love between them. However, she now knew she deserved a relationship built on truth and mutual respect. Meanwhile, Ryan began to open up about his emotions and confront his past mistakes. He also started therapy, determined to become a better person, regardless of the outcome of his relationship with Olivia. With the temporary separation underway, Olivia and Ryan began navigating parallel but interconnected paths. The distance between them seemed to ease some of the tension, yet it also intensified fundamental questions. Was there still a future for them together? At the same time, Ao was preparing to take a major step in his life, accepting a scholarship to study engineering in the United States. This decision introduced new dynamics that would bring their story to its climax. Ao's scholarship was for a university near Atlanta, meaning Ryan and Olivia would become more involved in his life. Ao had asked both of them to help him transition, putting Olivia and Ryan side by side once again. On the day they helped Ao move into his dorm, there were moments of awkwardness, but also genuine collaboration. Watching Olivia carefully organize Ao's space, Ryan couldn't help but admire her dedication and strength. "You always have a way of making everything feel like home," Ryan said, breaking the silence. Olivia gave a small smile, but avoided extending the conversation. "It's what moms do, Ryan." Her response was curt, but Ryan understood that there was still a wall he needed to break through. Ao began to notice the mutual respect between Olivia and Ryan, despite the lingering pain. During a private moment, he asked Olivia, "Do you still love my dad?" The question caught her off guard. "That's not so simple, Ao. Loving someone isn't enough when there's so much standing between you. But if there's still love, maybe it's worth trying." Olivia reflected on his words. They lingered in her mind, but she knew that any chance of reconciliation would have to come from mutual effort, not just from a desire to please their son. Not long after, Ryan called Olivia. There was something he needed to share with her. They met at a cafe, where Ryan handed her an envelope. "What's this?" Olivia asked cautiously. "It's a letter I wrote to Ao when I found out about him. I never had the courage to send it." Olivia opened the envelope and began to read. The letter was raw and honest, revealing Ryan's fear and guilt over his choices, but also expressing his desire to be part of Ao's life. "Why didn't you send it?" she asked, looking up from the letter. "Because I thought it was too late. And because I was afraid of what it would mean for us." Olivia closed the letter and took a deep breath. For the first time, she saw a glimpse of Ryan's genuine regret and his determination to change. Meanwhile, Jamila also reached out to Olivia. She sent her a video of Ao during a farewell ceremony in Kenya, where he thanked the community that had helped him grow. "It's thanks to you that I'm here today, Mom. And to my dad, for finally opening a door I always hoped he would." Olivia watched the video with tears in her eyes. It was impossible not to be moved by the joy and pride in Ao's voice. A few days later, Ao invited Ryan and Olivia to dinner, saying he had something important to share. When they arrived at the restaurant, they found Ao holding a symbolic gift for each of them, a handmade beaded bracelet, representing the connection between their families. "I don't know what the future holds for the two of you," Ao said, "but I want you to know that I'm grateful you came to me. You've changed my life, and I hope that, in some way, I've changed yours too." The gesture deeply moved Olivia, who saw in Ryan's son a strength and wisdom she never expected to encounter so soon. The dinner with Ao had left Olivia and Ryan emotionally vulnerable. Both realized there were still unspoken feelings between them, but they also understood that the wounds of the past would not heal easily. A few days later, Ryan made an unexpected proposal. He showed up at Olivia's store on a sunny afternoon, holding an envelope. She looked at him, surprised and a little wary. "What's this?" she asked, drying her hands with a cloth. "Plane tickets to Charleston," he said. "I thought maybe we could spend the weekend there, away from everything. Just talk without interruptions." Olivia hesitated. Part of her wanted to say no, But another part knew this might be the opportunity to get the answers she still lacked. "Alright, Ryan. Let's go." "But no expectations," she said, trying to mask her vulnerability. Ryan had chosen Charleston because it was where they had spent their honeymoon 25 years earlier. He knew the place held special meaning for both of them and hoped it might help ease some of the tension. When they arrived in the city, memories surfaced. They walked the cobblestone streets and dined at a waterfront restaurant they used to frequent. Yet, the weight of their situation hung heavily between them. On the second night, during a quiet dinner, Olivia finally broke the silence. "Why did you bring me here, Ryan? Do you think a place can erase everything that happened?" Ryan placed his napkin on the table and looked directly at her. "No, Olivia. I brought you here because I wanted to remember who we were before all this. I know I hurt you, and maybe you'll never fully forgive me, but I had to try." Olivia sighed, sensing the sincerity in his words. "It's not just about what you did, Ryan. It's about how you chose to hide it from me for so long. I keep asking myself, who are you? The man I met, or someone I idealized?" Ryan shook his head. "I ask myself the same thing. I spent years running from my past, trying to be the perfect husband, the perfect father, and I failed. I don't want to lie anymore, Olivia. Not to you, and not to myself." "And what do you want now?" she asked, her voice trembling between anger and sadness. "I want to start over. I don't know if you'll want that with me, but I want to give you the space and truth you deserve." After dinner, they walked along the beach. The sound of the waves crashing against the shore created a comfortable silence. Olivia finally spoke. "You know, Ryan, I don't think we can just erase everything. But maybe we can try to build something new." Ryan looked at her, surprised. "You mean?" "I mean, I still don't know what it will look like, but I'm willing to try. Not for you, but for us." Ryan didn't hold back his tears. For the first time in a long while, he felt there was a real chance for redemption. While Olivia and Ryan were in Charleston, Ao made an important decision in his own life. He called Jamila and said, "I want to bring you here to visit me. It's time for you to see the world I'm building." Jamila was deeply moved by the invitation. "I'm so proud of you, my son. And happy to see you finding your place, even with everything that's happened." Ao realized that, despite his parents' flaws, he now had something he'd never thought possible, a bond with both of them. On their last day in Charleston, Olivia and Ryan sat on the same bench where they had made their wedding vows 25 years earlier. Ryan took Olivia's hand and, with tears in his eyes, said, "I won't promise that everything will be perfect. But I promise I'll never hide anything from you again." Olivia looked at him for a moment before responding. "And I promise not to forget who I am in this relationship. If we're moving forward together, it will be with honesty." Olivia and Ryan's decision to rebuild their marriage marked the beginning of a new chapter. There were no guarantees, but both were committed to facing the challenges with honesty and openness. Meanwhile, Ao, now an integral part of their lives, brought new meaning to their family dynamic. Back in Atlanta, Olivia and Ryan began attending couples therapy. The sessions were difficult but essential for uncovering old wounds and allowing healing to begin. "It's been a painful process to admit my mistakes, but today, I feel closer to you than I have in years," Ryan confessed during one session. "And I'm starting to believe we can be better, but it takes daily effort," Olivia replied. They also established new boundaries for their relationship. Ryan pledged complete transparency, while Olivia set clear limits to protect her emotional independence. Ao, now living nearby, became a constant presence in Olivia and Ryan's lives. They invited him to weekly dinners and made a point to support him as he adjusted to a new culture. "It's strange to think that just months ago, I didn't even know what my dad's voice sounded like," Ao said during one dinner. "Now, it feels like I've always been part of this." Olivia smiled at him, realizing how much he had transformed their lives. "You are part of this, Ao. You always will be." A few months later, Jamila accepted Ao's invitation and made her first trip to the United States. Olivia and Ryan hosted a special dinner in her honor, where all barriers seemed to have finally been broken down. "It's good to see that my son has found a home here too," Jamila said, looking at Ao with pride. Olivia responded with a sincere smile. "He hasn't just found a home, he's helped us find a new beginning. Despite their differences, Olivia and Jamila shared a mutual respect. They both understood the significance of their intertwined stories and the profound impact Ao had on their lives. On Olivia's 50th birthday, Ryan organized a small celebration with friends and family. During the event, he gave a heartfelt toast. To Olivia, the strongest and most compassionate woman I've ever known. You've given me a second chance, something I can never fully repay. Olivia was touched, but responded with her characteristic humor. Well, I hope you keep trying. Laughter filled the room, symbolizing that despite the challenges, there was hope and a renewed love between them. Together, Olivia, Ryan, and Ao learned how to build something new from the ruins of the past. While the scars of betrayal would never fully fade, their collective effort to confront the truth and cherish their family gave their lives renewed purpose. A few years later, Olivia and Ryan traveled to Kenya together, accompanied by Ao. In the same village where it all began, they planted a tree as a symbol of growth and renewal. As Olivia watched the tree sway gently in the wind, she smiled. The past would always be a part of who they were, but the future now felt full of promise.